Be Vikes Bites, and we're going to get into some heavy Vikings discussion. Alec Lewis, Dane Mizutani, and it's presented by Kinmount Exteriors. Kinmount Exteriors, thank you for providing Vikes Bites.
You ready for training camp?
I'm ready. Like, well, part of me is very ready. Like, part of me is bored.
Yeah.
And part of me has like the ultimate Sunday scaries of like, here we go. Here we go.
I told my parents the other day, I was like, I'm ready to be out there. They're like, are you serious? It's going to be October and you're going to be complaining again. But I actually am excited for it.
There is an element of like, all right, let's get this show on the road. Yeah. Like, let's get rolling here. Like, the break is obviously nice, but I'm ready to have that routine every day. Now, when we're answering Kyler Murray versus J.J. McCarthy questions every single minute of every single day of our lives in mid-August, maybe I'll feel differently. But no, genuinely, I am excited to get going. It's time to roll.
Someone on the text line at 64686. So if you got Vikings questions, text the text line. I think it should pop up here on this little screen I'm looking at. Someone says, like always, KOC never answers a question. He talks in circles. Let's keep it real. There is no competition at quarterback. Kyler Murray 1, Carson Wentz 2, J.J. McCarthy 3. I'm not slow playing this like I did with John.
Here we go.
I've got thoughts on that, but what do you think on that conversation of there is no competition?
See, like, I think there is some element of a competition.
I agree with you.
Like, I don't think this whole thing has been lip service. I don't think Kyler's been told behind the scenes, you're the guy, like, just pretend, play along, there's no competition. I think the competition exists in the way I've been describing it from the beginning, is that if it's a 100-yard race, Kyler Murray started at like the 50-yard line. He still has to cross the goal line. He still has to cross the goal line to quote unquote win the competition. So it is a competition in that sense. JJ McCarthy could catch him. Kyler Murray could stumble. And if like at some point they're jockeying for position and Kyler Murray has some bad days and JJ McCarthy has some good days and it's for a prolonged stretch, maybe JJ McCarthy could win that race. So I think by definition, it's a competition because it hasn't been handed to one guy. But I've always felt since they signed Kyler in March that it was his job to lose. And while he didn't look as spectacular as that first day that he did in OTAs the entire time, and while I think J.J. McCarthy has shown improvements, I just always thought it was going to be very, very hard for J.J. McCarthy to pass Kyler Murray with the sample size we have for both guys.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. And I've said this and you've said it and we've written it. Like the purpose of this competition, if you want to use that word, is to maximize both of those guys and to add urgency to both of those guys to produce the best possible, platform for them to prove who they can be. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, why do you have to do that? Shouldn't there be an innate kind of motivation and push for a quarterback in the NFL to reach their ultimate potential? I think that's a fair, probably conversation to have. But I do think, Dane, to this point, that hope from Kevin O'Connell has come to fruition. Like Kyler Murray, you could tell there was a seriousness to the way he went about it. I'd say in June, and then J.J. McCarthy, I felt like was very motivated from the outset to prove that he has shown growth layering the football. So, like that's kind of how I viewed it. We'll see once training camp begins. But the idea of the competition in the first place, I do think we've seen the fruits of that as a kind of descriptor of it from the outset.
For sure, I think they're both pushing each other to be like the cliche, like the best versions of themselves. Now, I don't necessarily think if like Kyler was handed the job in March, he just would have like chilled and like done nothing and he needed like a quarterback competition to strive to be great. But I think inherently when you have two guys competing for one job, like you're going to want to one up the other one. And that itself is going to create this competition that frankly didn't exist last year. Like if you think back to last year, J.J. McCarthy was handed the keys to the car and Sam Howell was the guy pushing him.
Yeah, there was nobody else vying for those keys.
There was nothing. There was nothing in training camp, even on days where J.J. McCarthy struggled, looked shaky. Like, Sam Howell looked worse because Sam Howell is not in that same conversation to be challenging for a starting role. And I don't know that it created complacency, but there was nothing pushing J.J. McCarthy last training camp other than like all of the pressure that went into like they just won 14 games and here's the keys to the car. I think the daily grind, like to have that back and forth, is something that Kevin O'Connell was clearly looking for. It's something that he has cultivated, and I think to some degree it has created results that he likes so far. All of that being said, I think we need to make a call sooner rather than later because we can't drag this thing out like through all the duration of the preseason where they're splitting reps.
Well, that's the question I have. And Kevin O'Connell has said, he was on Dan Patrick last week at the American Century Championships golf tournament in Lake Tahoe, where Kevin O'Connell played. He played golf out there. But he was asked, I believe, like, do you have a time? It sounds like he definitely has a time frame in mind. That has not surfaced in my conversations or probably in many's conversations. What do you feel like is a fair distance to take this thing? I mean, if the first full pads practice, I think, is August 3rd, joint practices with the Ravens is August 20th, like, where is the fair range to then supply the first team reps to prepare this offense the way it needs to be prepared coming out of the gates in week one?
Yeah, like if we're still staying in line with the fact that this was a competition all along, and like if it was me, I would want the reps to shift by the first day of pads. But I don't know if you can do that to like keep in line with the competition like narrative that you've had. So I think by the first full week of pads, so if the first day of pads is August 3rd, that's a Monday, add 5 days, I think that would be August 8th, would be a Friday. I think the night practice is August 9th.
Sure.
Like by the end of that full week, by the following Monday, so Monday, August 10th, I would want those reps to be pretty line in the sand. This is your QB1, this is your QB2. And move forward that way. I think if you start getting into the joint practices, start getting into preseason games to make your evaluation, you're going to come season opener against the Packers and say like, the guy didn't have enough time to get ready. But what I will say is I don't think Kevin O'Connell is going to come out whenever the reps start to shift and say, yeah, this guy's our starting quarterback. Right. I think it's something that will happen gradually. One guy will start to get more reps in practice. Then they'll start to get even more reps in practice. One guy will slowly but surely fall by the wayside. It will become very clear who is the starter and who is the backup. And then the official announcement might not happen until the end of training camp. But I think the flip should start to, or at least in my opinion, should hopefully start by at least the first week of pads.
The hard part, and you know this because you're out there every day during training camp and during the spring practices and stuff, is there are these competitive periods, 7-on-7, 11-on-11, where Brian Flores can dial up whatever he wants to dial up. And this is where it's good. It's healthy competition for Kevin O'Connell as a play caller, for the offensive line to see different looks, for the quarterback to see different looks. But it can complicate the results, which are visible to us as media members and to fans who are out there. So I do wonder if, like, let's say, the first real padded practices, August 3rd, competitive instances, Flores is dialing it up versus one guy versus another. Does that give you a clear picture of who is actually performing or not? And they internally will know, and we can work to figure out how they feel internally. But that element of it does add a layer of complexity, to use a phrase from Kevin O'Connell.
It's a great point because we're going to be standing out there in the hot sun. The fans are going to be sitting in those hot bleachers, and there are going to be times where, regardless of if it's Kyler Murray or J.J. McCarthy, the guy is going to look lost. It happened with Kirk Cousins before Brian Flores, and then obviously when they crossed, it happened with Sam Darnold. Like, there are just times, and this isn't even all Brian Flores. Like, the nature of training camp lends itself to, like, the defense is going to look sharper than the offense right away because they can just fly around. But yes, you're right. Like, Brian Flores is going to dial some things up, and I'm sure Kevin O'Connell is going to throw his hands up in the air and be like, that's not what we talked about. And the result is going to be optically, one guy might look like they're struggling.
Perception.
And that's going to be hard to kind of escape if you're still doing the splitting of reps when the fans are just tweeting out these videos. Oh, look, another interception, or look, an errant play where the timing looked off. And it's hard for us to really understand like what was supposed to happen on each play when you just see the result and it might not look good. But that's something we're going to have to, and it's hard for us when we're in it, I think, but to have a little discernment, grains of salt. Not every rep is life or death, even though it might feel that way kind of when we're in that quarterback competition echo chamber.
Someone on the text line, this is interesting. It's like, what about the fact that some guys are great at practicing and some guys are gamers? And in parentheses, obviously some are both. You don't really know what you got until you've seen each guy live with the first team on Sundays.
I thought we let the Call of Duty thing go.
Yeah, the gamer, the Call of Duty. I'm bringing Josh Weinfuss, the ESPN Cardinals writer, on in about 30 minutes to talk about that very subject. So just, wait for it. But I would say my opinion to this question, Dane, with these two guys is they're both kind of gamers. And so, I mean, for both, if they face kind of an uphill task in practice to prove it, like I think that affects both of them. That would be my opinion. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think like both guys. You're right. I think both guys do things that lend themselves to Sundays more than just Monday through Friday. Like Kyler's legs, we're not going to be able to see that until Sunday. Like JJ McCarthy's playmaking ability that showed up at times last year. Didn't necessarily show up in training camp, but did show up, when they were playing on Sundays. That element, though, is kind of why from the beginning I thought it was going to be hard for J.J. McCarthy to pass Kyler Murray, because we have a full sample size, and Kevin O'Connell has a full sample size of J.J. McCarthy. It's a small sample size because of the injuries, but I have a hard time thinking he's going to be able to get certain things out of his head of like, this was supposed to look like this last year in the games, and it didn't. It doesn't mean that necessarily everything Kevin O'Connell calls for Kyler Murray on a Sunday is going to show up as is. But if we're just using data points from practice as a way to say who's going to be most prepared for Sundays, that's a tough game too, because to your point earlier, these guys are both gamers. So at a certain point, yes, you're going to use practice as an evaluator, but if Ty goes to who do you think is going to perform on Sundays, I think you probably go with the guy with more experience, with nearly 100 starts, with at times has looked like, and people have come at me on Twitter for this, but like at times has looked like a borderline top 10 quarterback in acute moments of his career. I think that's just going to take precedent when you kind of compare it to last year with how things looked at times with J.J. McCarthy.
You also said that like the defense is usually ahead, and it's 100% true. I'm of the belief that coming out of this training camp, different than last year. Like last year, it was a lot of defensive line looks really good. How are you going to stop Javon Hart? Like I think entering the Packers game or weeks before that, this offense does need to feel a little bit like a momentum leading into the season. Justin Jefferson needs to be talking about it. I really think Brian Flores, we just talked about him in training camp. He's going to throw a ton of good looks, but beating those looks in training camp, I do think there's more value to that this time around and establishing some kind of progression into the season than maybe there have been in years past, just to create that feel. Am I wrong?
No, that's a good point. I think if we think back to last training camp, you're right. We talked a lot about, wow, this defense is going to be really good. This defense is tearing it up. And some of it, as we know now, was that just the offense struggled at times. Like the offense couldn't get going in training camp, and that bled over into the regular season. They couldn't get going in the regular season. So yeah, Brian Flores is going to dial up the looks. We know that. It's going to be hard for the offense at times, but there can't be this, well, the defense is really good. Like conversation.
It's going to be hard on Sundays.
Right. That was constantly had last training camp. There does need to be steps forward each day. And if there's not, then there's going to be genuine concern. I heard you talking earlier. Like, I think the Vikings can be very good this year.
Yeah.
But if the offense is clunky in the middle of August or towards the end of August, I'll have genuine concern, because last year the offense was pretty clunky in the middle of August and the end of August, and they struggled out of the gates. So there has to be progression. Day by day, it might not be linear, but when we look back on it, like week 1 of training camp or week 4 of training camp should look a heck of a lot better than week 1.
And I go back to before Sam Darnold started that season. Like, it was clunky in joint practices, but then down the stretch leading into the season, it did look much more fluid. And that's not to say that year went perfect either. But that Dane Mizutani, the Pioneer Press. I'm Alec Lewis, in for Paul Allen on the Fan. When we come back, contrary to popular belief, the Vikings have an entire roster beyond the quarterback position. We're going to talk about it a little bit. You're listening to 9 to Noon. Dane Mizutani, the Pioneer Press, with Alec Lewis. We'll be back right after the break.
Before we go, the Fan and BigDeck.com and give a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is credit. The keyword credit. KFAN.com. Keyword credit.
It's Alec Lewis in for Paul Allen on the Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY.
Stay plugged into everything KFAN. Sports updates, ticket giveaways, show highlights, and more. You can follow KFAN 1003 on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, YouTube, all of our social channels, and stay connected to the sports leader, the Fan.
All right, welcome back to 9 to Noon. I'm Alec Lewis, Vikings beat writer at The Athletic, in for Paul Allen with our guest, Dane Mizutani of the Pioneer Press. We're going to have the LaMelo Ball press conference streamed in 38 minutes. If this is, on KFAN, if this is like a Vikings press conference, you don't know if it starts does it start at 11:12? Does it start at 11:20? So hopefully LaMelo is prompt. I just don't know what to expect from something like that, but should be entertaining.
Yeah, if it was a Vikings press conference, I'd say have about 5 to 10 minutes of content ready to go, just in case.
Yeah.
Dane,
Harrison Smith. A lot of people want to know about Harrison Smith. It was a topic that I came in wanting to talk to you a little bit about. I will go ahead and say that I'm still not ruling it out that Harrison Smith comes back and plays for this team at some point, whether it's late in training camp, whether it's after the season begins. What do you think about Harrison Smith, the possibility of him coming back? How important do you think it could be?
I'm with you. I'm not ruling it out. I don't think Harrison Smith, the guy who said time and time again, you can't buy a spot out here, I love the game, the guy who time and time again continues to show up on Sundays, is just sitting at home thinking like, yeah, I'm done with that. So I won't rule it out completely, but I think we're probably getting to a point where, like, are we going to see him during training camp? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Like, it always felt to me like if Harrison Smith was going to come back, it was going to be, we're 6 weeks into the season and the Vikings suffer an injury and maybe they need a Harrison Smith. Or we're 8 weeks into the season and the Vikings are 7-1. And there's an opportunity to really do something with this. But I think the peak performance for the Vikings, the optimal outcome for the Vikings, if they're going to reach their highest potential this year, I think Harrison Smith has to be on the team at some point. Like, I think that doesn't mean he's going to. That doesn't mean he's coming back to save the day. But I think when you just look at all of the pieces to the puzzle, what Brian Flores has done since he got here, the defense is at its best when Harrison Smith is on the field. He still can do things that very few people in the NFL can do. Has he lost a step late in his career? Sure. Is he the same guy he was when he was in his early 20s? No. But he thinks the game, and him and Brian Flores seem to have this connection, this wavelength that they can get to that nobody else can. So if the Vikings don't have Harrison Smith this year, they're going to miss him. And I think the early stages of the year, they probably won't have him. And it will be interesting to see how they perform without one of the greatest Vikings of all time kind of in the mix.
He is the defensive version of the veteran quarterback who can operate on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you said it perfectly. Can Matthew Stafford move around the way he always could? No. Now, this is a high comparison because Matthew Stafford's arguably the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But Matthew Stafford, with the complexity of these schemes, can get the Rams in and out of offensive plays right before the line is, the snap is called, with all of the noise and all the commotion, in a way that Harrison Smith defensively, like on the text line, Harry is beyond washed. Like, I think you watch him move around, you're missing 70% of what makes him still as special and viable as he can be on the field. But I'm with you in that. I think if he does come back, it probably is after the season begins at some point. I will say though, like, it does give me more questions about that position, the safety spot, than I think people have talked about here locally. Like, yes, Josh Metellus has proven to be a reliable defensive player for Brian Flores, but can he live and thrive on the back end? I think that's a question. Jay Ward started to come on a little bit down the last couple games of the season, but can he be an every down role? Theo Jackson, what did we see from him last year? Jacoby Thomas, the rookie, like, you're asking a guy to come in and have a pretty big responsibility. So for the defense to be really good, you need the safety position to be really good. And I just think there's reason to question that spot right now.
For sure. Like, that is, like, quietly probably the biggest question mark on the team. And I say quietly because I think there's other positions. Obviously, we talk about quarterback. We'll continue to talk about quarterback as a question mark. I feel like edge rusher has been a big topic of conversation. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be edge rusher 3? The depth at the safety position has, for whatever reason, kind of taken a back seat. And when we understand, or we know what Brian Flores likes to do, and look, he'll shape shift if he has to. If he does, he played 3 safeties because he had Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Josh Metellus, and that was how to get his best 11 on the field. If he doesn't feel comfortable with the safety depth, he'll probably play more nickel or invent some other defense that we've never seen before. But quietly, safety is a position where if a couple things go wrong, your depth is gone. So that's kind of what I was alluding to when I said I think for the Vikings to reach optimal level of success this year, Harrison Smith probably has to play at some point. Not because I necessarily think he's going to, but because the cupboard's kind of bare, or at least to some degree pretty unproven after a guy like Josh Metellus, who I think we know what we're going to get from him. But yeah, like you said, Jay Ward, that's a lot to put on his plate. Hey, you're essentially the Harrison Smith replacement. Hey, Theo Jackson, at times shined in his career, at times kind of left something to be desired. Now you have to step into this role. And while nobody's going to replace Harrison Smith, like, there are just a ton of defensive snaps that have to be accounted for now. It's going to be incumbent that one of those guys kind of coming up steps up and fills that role.
So one of the text lines asked, can Harrison take a mentoring role and develop players to see the game like he sees it? Like, I definitely, maybe there's part of that, but some guys in split-second decisions amid all the commotion. Well, first of all, Harrison Smith's a potential Hall of Famer, so just transporting that into someone else's body is quite difficult. But I just think so much of it is on the field feel, and that's so critical in terms of what has made him so successful. Like, I just think you're asking a lot.
Yeah, you can't sit Jacoby Thomas down. And like Jacoby Thomas, we've talked to him right after the draft. You could tell he was sharp. We talked to him at OTAs. Sharp kid, definitely wants it. And this is no disrespect to Jacoby Thomas, but you can't just sit him down with Harrison Smith and have Harrison Smith just all of a sudden give his brain to Jacoby.
It.
Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. There's a reason Harrison Smith is one of the greatest players to ever put on the uniform. It's not just because he was a spectacular athlete, a ball hawk in his day. Like, this guy thinks the game at a level very few have. And just to say, well, he's going to be able to impart all this wisdom, like, he can impart as much as he wants to on these younger guys. And I'm sure he has throughout the last decade and a half since he's been in the league. But then to go out and apply it in a split second on a Sunday, it doesn't work that way. So, yeah, could he be a mentor? Sure. Does it mean that Jacoby Thomas is going to think and see the game like Harrison Smith? No, I don't think anybody will.
People also have asked, like, do you think Harrison will come back and coach? Like,
No.
This guy is going to be on the golf course, or, he's got a plot of land out there in Knoxville. He's going to be in a bulldozer or something, like, with his kids and family. He has no business being out there on a June practice day at TCR Performance Center if he's not playing. That's just not, he cares about people, but that's not his path.
Yeah, There are some guys that you look at and you're like, I could see Josh Metellus being a coach.
Yeah.
I could see him wanting to be. And this is like, obviously we've spoken very highly of Harrison Smith's football acumen. Very few have what he has in his brain. This has nothing to do with could he coach. I just don't think he wants to coach because I think after playing for so long, I don't think it would scratch that same itch to just coach the football game like he's would be asked to do in that scenario.
I think like the thing he loves is the noise, the physicality, the chess game, like being in it. Like that is the thing you cannot simulate or buy anywhere else. So it'll be interesting. Like it's weird to me talking about it. I feel better about the cornerback position than I do the safety spot, I think. And you've got Byron Murphy Jr., who I'd say in 2024 had an unbelievable season where he stockpiled all his interceptions in the top of his locker. There were just footballs falling out. And then last year, the interception well ran a little dry. You've got Isaiah Rodgers. They signed James Pierre, who I'm looking forward to watching training camp because I'm a psycho. They drafted Chuck Demmings, who one of the texters asked about. So that's I feel like for years, the cornerback position has been like, what are they going to do? But now you feel at least I feel pretty okay about where it's at.
Yeah, I feel good about where that position is at. Well, I don't feel amazing. I think
that's true.
You could always add. The Mike Zimmer, like cornerbacks, he can have enough of them. I won't say the exact quote, but you can't have enough cornerbacks. That's very true. But with what they have now over time been able to construct in that room, yes, Byron Murphy Jr., a very good player at the position. Isaiah Rodgers showed at times last year can be a dynamic player that can change the game in with the drop of a hat. And James Pierre, I wouldn't discount. Like Brian Flores wanted that guy, and Brian Flores usually when he sets his eyes on somebody and thinks that they could be a good fit, like is he batting 1,000? No, nobody.
Yeah, I was going to say not perfect.
Nobody
you got
does.
your Jeff Okudas,
Right.
you got your there. It's not perfect.
But I at least right now I'm drinking the Kool-Aid of like James Pierre could be a late bloomer
I'm
late
with
in his
you.
career. So I feel good about where they're at with 3, and then I feel like they've slowly but surely kind of at least stocked the cupboard to some degree with young talent that could pop. Now it's on Brian Flores to trust the young talent at some point if it comes to that point. And I mean this with no disrespect, but not go sign Fabian Moreau for the 4th time and throw him in. Sometimes it's okay to let the young guys flourish or, struggle at times. But, I feel pretty good about where that room's at. We'll see here when training camp really starts to roll how we feel.
Ben from Savage, and I don't know if you heard the run game thing at the top, but he said, with all the talk about the improving run game, I'm curious to what personnel we will be in. What was the most used in Miami? Will Jawan Jennings be on the field in 12 personnel due to his run blocking prowess? Will we stay in 11 more and try to run out of that? I'd say you can take any of those wherever you want them. But what do you feel, I guess, about the run game? And do you think I'm off my rocker to say that if you're really optimistic, this is an area of the team that could contribute?
No, I think and again, maybe this is me just drinking the Kool-Aid in July, and this will feel way differently in October, when they're still struggling to run the ball. But there was an intention this offseason with we're going to get better at running the ball. And I think like Kevin O'Connell is always going to take some heat on social media for the run game or success or lack thereof. But I think there has been some introspection over the course since he got here in 2022 to where we're at now, and understanding that we have to be better in this area. And so what did they do? They didn't just make a bunch of moves up front. They went to the root of the problem.
Exactly,
and they found Frank Smith. They gave him an assistant head coach job because that's how important he was in Kevin O'Connell's eyes to what this run game could look like. it all sounds good right now. I think if you just go back and watch Miami film, I have not watched as much as probably you have, but the things that they were doing in the run game, pretty singular, pretty unique. Mm-hmm. And if the Vikings can even get 80% of that, even 75% of that, like, it's going to open up everything else. So I feel good about the run game. I don't think you're just hyping up something that doesn't exist. But at the end of the day, on 2nd and 8, like, are you going to run the ball? Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to run the ball on 2nd and long to be successful in the run game, but you have to have a commitment and a confidence to, okay, that first run got stuffed. I can still go back to it.
Does the defense think that's something you could do or could do well?
Right. And it can't be, well, here comes Josh Oliver. I know they're going to run the ball. Like, there has to be a little bit of complexity to it, of where the defense doesn't know what's coming. But I think right now, until proven otherwise, like, there is reason to be excited about where this run game could go. Doesn't mean they're going to have the most dynamic run game in the league. They don't have a Devin Achane. But
hard to say.
Yeah. But with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, Damon Claiborne, like, there might be enough there to just get more than you have in the past.
And I will say this. Whatever someone said Devon Claiborne is the next Barry Sanders. Well, I will say this. Nothing that I see in training camp on the run game, I will not make any decision or perspective on the run game. Like, I remember last year during training camp, they did a lot of running the football. I remember there was a press conference with Kevin O'Connell one day where he's like, you guys aren't calling balls and strikes on the run game. And I will say this, the run game, all the metrics will tell you they were as good in 2025 as they've ever been in Kevin O'Connell's time here. But nothing that I can see in August will dictate how I feel about the run game until I see it in real time. That's just how it's going to be, for as optimistic as I am.
Yeah, gotta believe it, see it to believe it. But there's reason to be optimistic, I think, at this point.
Someone on the text line, Brett is probably sitting back there like, yeah, put Harrison back there. We'll run right by him. You like that?
No, I'm not thinking that at all. Not even a little bit.
What else, Dane, with training camp very soon, besides the sun that, what else are you thinking about besides, are we going to have a tent out there? The dynamics every single day. What else is on your mind? Or are you curious or excited about?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's hard with training camp because, like, I'm excited to see how Dallas Turner looks, but also, like, it's hard to really understand at this point, like, how defensive players are really going to perform in these scenarios. Because everything it's not half speed, but you're not taking the guy down. But that's a guy who I will be homing in on from the beginning. Like, Dallas Turner needs to take the next step in his career. There's been times this offseason or throughout his career where you've seen glimpses of it, but it can't just be, oh, he looked good this game. Oh, he kind of disappeared. Like, he has to be a driver for this defense. So I think that room is something I'll be focused in on as much as you can when, like I said, like, training camp doesn't always lend itself to projecting out how good this edge rusher is going to be on a Sunday. But with Dallas Turner, Andrew Van Ginkel, I think they're going to sign an edge rusher at some point because I don't think you can go forward into the NFL season.
Agree.
With just those two and then guys who can chip in here and there. I'm excited about that. Like I said, from the top. Dylan Bell? He's a guy who, I mean, the fans are going to love him. When the fan videos come out and you just see this guy, Dylan Bell, it was like this in OTAs in the spring. Like, we would be standing on that hill, and all of a sudden, there's 89 again with the ball in his hand.
Who caught that? Oh, Dylan Bell again?
Wow, Dylan Bell is wide open. He's a guy who, like, we do the Mr. Mankato thing every year. You pick, like, he's a guy who would have the inside track at winning that award. He's going to be a training camp star. He's going to be somebody that endears himself to the fans pretty fast. Yeah, there's always guys on the periphery that are interesting. But I overall just excited to get back out there and be around everybody every day, and we'll see if I'm feeling the same way in mid-August.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Jersey Mike's will be, I mean, I was thinking about that today. I drove by one this morning. I'm like, I gotta, keep it to a minimum as much as possible. But, Dane, thanks for hopping on, 9 to noon with KFAN. Where can people find you?
Pioneer Press, TwinCities.com. Throw us a subscription here. We got a sale. We always got a sale going on. So yeah, Pioneer Press. Love being there. So
awesome. That's Dane Mizutani of the Pioneer Press. I'm Alec Lewis, in for PA on the Fan. Around the corner, we're going to have Josh Weinfuss. He's a Hopkins native who covers the Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals, that is, for ESPN. And we're going to talk some Kyler Murray before the LaMelo Ball press conference. 9 to noon, KFAN.
It's Alec Lewis in for PA.
This segment, typically News Due Nord, Brett's Bits and Bets, Max Musings, or Sports Essentials, whatever you call it. It's brought to you by Canterbury Park, live racing, feeling the felt with Nordo on the blackjack. Maybe you want to see PA with his giant binoculars. Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com.
All right, Alec Lewis, Vikings writer, in for PA on KFAN. And on the phone now is someone I've looked forward to talking to. His name is Josh Weinfuss. He covers the Arizona Cardinals for ESPN and has for some time. Josh, I believe, is a native of Hopkins. Josh, first of all, thanks for hopping on. Is that correct? And if so, what do you miss most about this area?
Yes, I moved to Minnetonka, technically Minnetonka. I went to Hopkins High School when I was 9, but went to high school, elementary school, junior high, and all that stuff up there. What do I miss the most? The seasons? Like, it sounds weird living in Arizona when it's, like, perfect here during the winter, but, like, I miss fall. Like, we don't have a fall. We just have, like, summer and not summer, So I miss being able to put on a sweatshirt and jeans and just kind of walk outside and there's like a crisp in the air, but just seeing a lot of grass. Like, there's no grass here. It's all fake, but like a lot of rocks, a lot of brown. But yeah, that's kind of what I miss the most.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on. It's good to bring you back. You covered Kyler's whole career in Arizona. So I'll start you with this one. Which narrative of Kyler Murray do you feel like is the most misguided?
I think the one on him not working hard, right? Like, there's this misconception that the guy who plays video games at home doesn't put his time in on football, right? And what was the most telling thing after all that went down in 22, when the Cardinals put in an independent study amendment to his, or addendum, I guess, into his contract that required him to study on his own for 4 extra hours a week, was that when that whole firestorm was happening, he called himself an impromptu press conference. And he came out, he said something that I thought was extremely telling, and I think not a lot of people truly understood it. He said, "Do you think I could truly play NFL or a quarterback in the NFL without studying?" Like, people legitimately thought he did not study film, right? And I had someone close to him tell me that, hey, here's how he works. He gets the facility early, he stays there late, he puts in all his time there, and when he goes home, that's his time to step away from football, to decompress, and that's when he would turn on the video game and the Twitch at the time and do all that stuff, right? And they said, hey, would you rather him do that, or would you rather him go to a club or do something that he's out to midnight doing and could get in trouble and also could cast a bad light on the team and himself, right? Sure. Like, so when I started thinking about it that way, I was like, okay, well, playing video games isn't that bad, and as long as he gets his work done, that's fine. And someone recently explained it to me this way. And they said the offense that he was running under Cliff Kingsbury was legitimately an elementary curriculum. It's something he had been doing since the 8th grade. He knew that scheme inside and out. When Drew Pett got here under Jonathan Gannon in 2023, it was something totally new to him. He had never run it. And from what I've heard, he put in more than the time they asked him to learn it. So he can study. He can do all of this stuff. He might not have studied as much as people wanted to back then, but it was like 1 + 1. He knew what that was. But when you start getting into algebra and pre-calc and calculus, which he was doing under Petzing, he had to go study all that stuff. So to me, that was a narrative that was just absolutely ridiculous. Like, he didn't work hard. He didn't study and all that stuff.
It's so interesting to me too, like how much like it catches on like wildfire, and I don't know, other than production and wins, like I don't know what someone can do, frankly, to chisel away at some of those, as a narrative like that. The other, one of the other subjects that I thought would be interesting to kick to you, because it's been kind of a talker in the industry a little bit, is his deep ball. And I've gone back and I've watched a lot of film of him throwing 20 yards or more years and years back. In 2021, he's obviously throwing to DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green. More recently, it's been Marvin Harrison Jr. Do you feel like the deep ball slipped, or his accuracy throwing deep slipped over time, or how do you think about that subject?
Yeah, so I don't think it slipped. I think he was just asked to do different things, right? Like, if you go back and look at his first few years in the league, like you did, like, the deep ball is there. Like, his arm is there. He could throw it. He could sling it. He's one of the more, in my eyes, for what I've seen, one of the more accurate deep ball throwers that I've ever encountered. When he was playing with D-Hop, granted, D-Hop's a freak, but, like, he would put the ball exactly where D-Hop can get it, but no one else could. He was doing it with AJ Green. He did it with Trey McBride sometimes. He was doing it with Marv. Like, he has an innate ability to pinpoint his deep balls. Now, the thing is that when Petzing got here, and this is no knock on Petzing, it's no knock on Kyler,
sure,
they just wanted him to do different things. They were more of a check-down-oriented offense, just kind of dink and dunk down the field. I think part of it was Marv wasn't the deep ball threat that he had been in college, and that was maybe part of the offense, maybe part of Marv, all stuff. But I still think he can do it, right? I think if you give him enough time back there, he will get the ball down the field. Now, here's something that's, I think, very interesting, especially considering the situation he's going into with the talent, like the receiving core that he's inheriting, is that one player told me last year in the locker room that the thing about Kyler is that when he goes through his progressions, he goes progression 1, maybe 1.5, maybe 2, and he pulls the ball and runs because he knows he's either the most athletic player on the field or the second most athletic player on the field, and he can make plays that very few, if any, other players in the NFL can't. So he relies on his speed and his quickness to probably more often than he should, than he needs to, but he doesn't usually get to that second, third, maybe even fourth progression, then coming back to make a play from there. So that's going to be interesting to me, because what's going to happen when Justin Jefferson isn't maybe out of his break yet and Kyler's already running?
Sure.
Right? Like, how's Justin Jefferson going to react to that? How's KOC going to react to that? Like, if he just stayed in there maybe 2 seconds later, he might have a bomb to Justin Jefferson, but he's already off and running. So to me, that's going to be one of the biggest things to watch this year.
Yeah, I think that is, the marriage of scheme and player here locally is the conversation is as interesting as anything else. Josh, it sounds like LaMelo at the podium is quite soon. I'm sure you understand the fervor of folks here. I'm gonna try to have you on my podcast to go a little deeper at some point, but appreciate you hopping on. A lot of respect for the work you've done. I've gone back and read a lot of it, whether it's Bruce Lee's story, a bunch of different stuff. So appreciate your time, and we will talk soon, man. Thank you.
Sounds good. Anytime. Absolutely.
That's Josh Weinfuss, Arizona Cardinals beat writer for ESPN. He does a phenomenal job and has covered Kyler Murray since he entered the NFL. Some really interesting comments there on some of the narratives around Kyler. But yeah, coming up after the break, another player with a lot of narratives around them. It's LaMelo Ball, who the Minnesota Timberwolves acquired from the Charlotte Hornets. He's having his introductory press conference, and we're going to stream it live here on KFAN for as long as we possibly can. Stay tuned for that. I'm Alec Lewis, in for PA on the Fan, and we'll catch you guys with LaMelo Ball around the corner.
It's Alec Lewis in for Paul Allen on the Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report.